everyone, it's Angela Stevens. Enjoy this video special interview I had with Duane Gordon with ADDA. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm excited and delighted to introduce our guest. He is someone that you may have heard of or saw in a conference or just known about. He is very well knowledgeable about ADHD and family, and you're going to really enjoy getting to know more about him. His name is Duane Gordon. He is the president of ADDA, which is Attention Deficit Disorder Association. I want to make sure I got that right. He's got a great background, and we're going to get into that. But first of all, Duane, thank you so much for being on our show today. I was delighted to get to know you earlier and can't wait to hear about some of the things that's going on with you.
It's my pleasure to be here. I'm very excited. Anything that we can do to help adults with ADHD around the world, we're all for that. So, and I'm looking forward to our future discussions.
Absolutely.
There's oodles to talk about.
Absolutely. One thing that Duane and I have in common is that we both have had children with ADHD, and we have ADHD. So if you're listening to this, you might have ADHD too. So, so first
That's
of all,
absolutely true.
We joke, but it's really, really true. So first of all, Duane, talk to us a little bit about what is ADDA and what makes it different from all of the other organizations that are out there that focus in this area.
So, ADDA is the largest organization devoted exclusively to adults with ADHD. Okay, if you're a child, if you're a parent looking for help with children, that's not us. We're here to, now we do help parents, but we help parents with their ADHD, because when you have ADHD and your kids have ADHD, it can be a bit of a nut house.
It's a journey. It can be a journey.
Absolutely. And so we're focused on the adults. So that's one thing that distinguishes us. The other thing that distinguishes us is that we are very much community based. I like to say that we're an organization of adults with ADHD helping adults with ADHD. Our entire board is adults with ADHD. So when we're thinking about solutions, we're thinking about solutions that would work for us. It's not a bunch of neurotypical people making decisions for those poor ADHD people. We're right in there with you. All of our support groups are run by adults with ADHD. Oftentimes we'll be on the phone talking with somebody, they're calling in, they're looking for advice. And they hope to talk to an expert, and when they do, and it comes out in the conversation that, oh, you also have ADHD? Oh, like I never knew somebody could have it so together and have ADHD.
Right.
Right. So yeah. So we very much model what is possible for adults with ADHD by setting the example and giving and welcoming everyone and giving them the opportunity to reach their full potential.
Absolutely. As you and I know, we were talking about our children, and for anyone that is parenting children, especially through this pandemic, patience is always a good thing, right? But just to give you a little bit of hope, my son, who is a co-founder of the business Refocus the Creative Office, got diagnosed in the 5th grade, and he's now in a university studying IT engineering. So they're some of the most brilliant people I know. Not talking about me, but they really are. And your daughter is she's turned out great too, right?
She absolutely has, and so, as a matter of fact, my wife and I we call ADHD creative geniuses, just because ADHD is
I love that
a terrible name, right? So we say no, they're creative geniuses, and not everyone is brilliant, but one of the things that I have found that makes the biggest difference is perseverance. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things I'm sure as an entrepreneur is invaluable. Nobody succeeds the first time. No. You fall forward.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, my daughter is one of the most inspirational people I know. It took her 3 years to get through senior year of high school. She has ADHD. She also has some learning disabilities. And I I told her, I said, look, just why don't you give up? I would have given up by now. And she's, no, I'm going to do this.
Right.
And she did. She anytime I feel like I want to give up, I just think of her and say, well, if she can do it, I mean, for crying out loud.
You're her dad.
Yeah. So the perseverance is absolutely essential. And that's one of the things that ADDA does. We say that we're a no shame, no blame organization. And it's almost like volunteering for ADDA is one of the benefits of ADDA. Mm-hmm. You join, there's a lot of services that we offer, there's a lot of support that we offer, but almost the way to take full advantage of our services is to then volunteer to turn around and help someone else, because you learn so much by sharing your knowledge with those that come behind you, and it's so empowering mm-hmm. to see yourself in a role that when you began, you didn't imagine you could even take on.
Right. Case in point, I was a single mom for 10 years with a child with ADHD. I left it's a very sad divorce. And there was, abuse in my ex-husband's background. And you know what I did? I learned everything I could to help him, to help our child, right? But also to learn about it. And you turn it to good. And I took that knowledge and I went and I was on the board of CASA for 12 years. I was their president, when you talk about perseverance, I went a little overboard, but you turn it to good. You take that knowledge and you bring it forward. And that's one of the missions of our organization, is that we want to change the stigma of ADHD, because really it's everyone is so unique in one way or another.
Oh, absolutely. And you have no idea how far, first of all, you have no idea what people are coping with. So here's a little story. And I'm going to mention ADDA, which is the Attention Deficit Disorder Coach Academy. Oh, so David Gawork is actually, if he's not on your list of people to interview, he probably should be. But
David, I'm calling you next. Okay.
He's very well known in the industry, and I met him. He was president of ADDA at the time that I went to that very first conference, and I met him. And he asked me for my business card, and I had just started a new business. And so I gave him my business card, and he looked at it and he said, "Duane, there's no phone number on this card." And I said, "I know, I don't want to talk to people." That's where I was, trying to start a business with email. I couldn't imagine myself having the social skills to carry on a conversation with somebody else, just at that level. Mm-hmm. That's where I was when I started in 2005. I volunteered to write for the newsletter. Mm-hmm. I had no skills with writing. I had no proof, but I thought I would like to tell stories. That's something I would like to learn. And so I did that. And I did that for 3 years and worked with an editor. And eventually she said, "Okay, so you're good enough. Why don't you take over as editor?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Yes, you're ready for this." I said, "Okay, I'll try it, but you better be ready to come and rescue me." Anyway, I took over as editor, and I did that for 3 more years. Wow. And that was fine. And then somebody, it was Evelyn Green, who was then president, and she invited me to a meeting. They had their weekend retreat, and she said, "Duane, I think it's time for you to come on the board." I said, "No."
That's where you run. No.
I said, "No, I can't.
Run to.
Yeah, I can't do that." She said, "Yes, you can. I'll be there to help you. I'll partner you with another person, and they'll get you up to." And I did that. And then finally, she said, "Duane, I want you to take over as president for me." And I said, "No."
And they come back.
And they come back.
Yeah.
So, every step of the way, what's holding you back are your own beliefs about yourself. And so that's one of the things that ADDA offers that's probably the most important. It's not listed on the benefits, but it should be, is hope. Because wherever you come in, you can see someone who has pushed themselves further and they're handling it, and you begin to believe in yourself. And sometimes it's very scary to believe in yourself, but you know, you can do it.
You have to, yeah.
And I'm always amazed, and that's one thing that we're not very good at. We don't turn around and look back and say, oh my God, how far I have come.
No.
But we should, because my journey has been incredible. Your journey has been incredible, right? If you think about how far we've come, given what we have to cope with, it's absolutely amazing. And our kids too. It's exactly the same thing, right? When you have ADHD, life can be hard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But what I love is that ADHD also gives you that perseverance, because when you've had to struggle for everything, it gives you that. It gives you the creativity, the constant new brilliant ideas. I know I'm talking over everything.
No.
As an entrepreneur, in business school, they teach you, carry around a little notebook to write down your best ideas, right? And
we lose it.
Well, we lose it, and plus, it doesn't really matter, because I would write down an idea, and by the time I found it and went back and looked at it, I'd had 6 better ones.
Yeah.
And it was just, I learned that I would just, let myself go, and I'll wait, and when I need an idea, it'll be there. You have to learn to have confidence in your own abilities and your own creativity as well. And that's one of the things that being at ADDA and being accepted and being allowed to be yourself gives you, is the confidence that, oh, look at that. There are some benefits to ADHD. There are some skills and strategies that come with it. And some of them come just because of the unique brain wiring of ADHD. And some of them come because that unique brain wiring causes issues that you've then had to solve, and you've gotten really good at that.
Right. And if you look at our backgrounds, I mean, we didn't have the support when we were younger if we had ADHD, so we had to figure out another way. It's probably the reason that I do own 3 businesses. I'm not sure why, but we own 3 businesses, but I love it all. And we go. But our statement and our theme is, we all get so busy that sometimes we need to stop, take a moment, and refocus. And that's kind of what you're saying to a lot of people that might not be volunteering, that, hey, stop and give yourself some credit of what you've done, but then yet take those talents and those abilities and use those and turn them to good and share with others.
Absolutely. So there's a few things around that one, practical. Your audience will love this. Okay. So Have you heard of the Pomodoro technique?
Gosh, I'm going to be honest and say no.
Okay, so Pomodoro is this idea where you do work in increments of 30 minutes. And the way that it works is you set a timer and you focus and you work hard for 25 minutes, and the timer goes off and you take a break. And then you set it again, and you can do 2 or 3 of those in a row. And the idea of setting it like a race to do 25 minutes of full out work, and then, okay, relax. And that's helpful. Now, for some people that doesn't work, but a friend of mine found a technique that is absolutely amazing for adults with ADHD. He said the key, you got to remember, we love dopamine. We don't get enough of it, and everything that we do is about looking for it, right? So he said, I work for the 25 minutes, and then when I take a break, I'm very purposeful. I turn back and I look at what I accomplished in those 25 minutes, and I give myself a pat on the back for having done that.
Yeah.
And that gives me the dopamine hit for the next 25 minutes.
That's great. You know, there's been I haven't heard of that effect. I've heard of all of the, you know, work 10 minutes, work 20 minutes, work 30 minutes, take a break and all of that. But that is a great idea. So I would recommend that.
It's however long you want to work. But if during your break, you look back and you pat yourself on the back, the dopamine hit is amazingly powerful.
I'm going to do that today. Yeah, I know.
Oh, listen, okay, I'm going to give you it's not so secret anymore, but it's really like a secret weapon, okay, that you can control anyone with ADHD.
Love it. I am all ears.
So, and having kids with ADHD, you know that scolding them, nagging them, punishing them, mostly just a waste of time.
They can sit there and take it better than any other kid I know.
Exactly. So here's what you need to do. You need to catch them doing something right and compliment them on it.
Always.
Okay.
We don't do it enough, and we're always on them. And you know, every parent out there, especially during this time, I know has found themselves, you know, not giving enough compliments.
No, absolutely. So here's how powerful this is. Okay. When I was first diagnosed, and the first 15 years of our marriage were terrible. Not for me, for my wife, because I had ADHD and I couldn't keep up at work, and I was no help at home, and I was, you know, I was her third child, just the biggest one. But
and I think a lot of people can relate to that too.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure they can. And so when I started working with a coach, one of the things that I wanted to do was help out at home. And so I asked my wife,
excuse me, all men that are listening to that statement, you know, we'll repeat that. Help out at home. I'm writing this down. Go ahead.
Well, I do think that most men like to, they would love to pull their weight in the family. And there are various ways that they do that, but if they haven't abandoned it, they would really like to be able to do that. And so I wanted to help out my wife. And so I asked her, I said, you know, if I could take over one chore, what would it be? And so she gave me a choice of 2 or 3. But she said the one that would
do you remember what were they? What were the 3?
Well, I only remember the one that I picked.
Okay.
I don't remember what the other ones were, but the one that she said would make the most difference was grocery shopping, because she would go grocery shopping. She would drag the kids with her because she didn't feel safe leaving them at home with me, because we would get into fights or trouble or whatever. So she had to take them, and it was like a big long thing. And she would just love if I could do the grocery shopping. And I talked to my coach, and she said, okay, we're going to do that. We're going to work on this. And of course I told my wife, she said, oh my God, we're going to starve to death.
As my son says, we never have sweets in the house when Daryl does it. There we go.
Right. So anyway, so my coach and I worked on a system about how I could do the grocery shopping and creating a list and all of this kind of stuff. And there's all kinds of weird, I mean, that's a whole story in itself about ways that we improved my system for grocery shopping and whatnot. But here's the thing. The first time that I went grocery shopping and I came back with the groceries, Linda met me at the door and she said, thank you. But she didn't just say thank you. She said, Duane, you have no idea how much this meant to me. I just spent 2 hours with my children, and we played. We didn't have homework, and we didn't have anything else. We it was the most wonderful gift you could give me. Now, she never had to remind me to do grocery shopping again, and it's been 20 years, and I still do it every week.
I love that. I love that. You know what? And I'm going to echo that. Recently, I had surgery on my arm and I wasn't able to cook. Actually, I'll never forget this. I had a potato and a big knife, and my husband came in and he goes, it's not a good idea. And but anyway, so then he took over, and he's an amazing cook. He's amazing, and now he does it every night, and I haven't stopped him because I see the joy that it brings him to do that. That's his release. And I felt bad because I thought I have taken that from him all these years, you know. So that is that right there is worth this whole podcast right there, because I never have had anyone put it into words quite like that, and I've seen that firsthand. So you know, today it's never too late to start, right? That's something somebody can do today to help out their spouse.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, just catch them doing something right and compliment them on it. And you can guide them. Like I didn't do it right the first time. The tomatoes weren't they were too ripe because we weren't using them until the middle of the week, and they were going to be. She didn't mention any of that.
We have a system, right? We have a system.
Right? Yeah, and I developed the system, and I learned, and so on. But you can't ask them to do things and then nag them about how they're not doing it right. That doesn't work. And to this day, when I come in, we still joke about it, and she'll say, "Oh, thank you for hunting and foraging for us."
I love that. I love that. So I have a question. So there's a lot of people right now that are, you know, working at home and being parents at home. And I've asked all of our guests this because I always get different answers. But, you know, two things. If you have any advice on that, it's great. But I want to ask you a specific question. If you have a parent that's ready to lose their patience, we've all been there. We've all been there. But during this pandemic, what do they do?
I wish I had a great answer for that. You need to retreat. You need some alone time. So do your kids. And I know that if you've got toddlers and so on, it's very hard to leave them alone. You know, but and playpens are evil. I saw a good solution this morning. Somebody had taken a onesie and pulled the feet down and tied them around a chair leg.
I love that. Yeah.
The baby could like try to crawl but couldn't get anywhere.
Oh, that's great.
And you can just step away even for 5 minutes. Go listen to a song. Meditate. Whatever. But you're not accomplishing anything by yelling at them. They're not going to pay attention any better.
Right.
The other thing that I will say, and this is from my own daughter's experience, one of the biggest regrets that I have is I wanted her to succeed so much in school. School was overwhelming. And we spent, I swear, up until probably grade 9 or 10, hours every night, every weekend.
So taxing on both.
Doing homework. She was never going to be good at homework. And here's the thing. After all of those years, all of the time that we could have been spending finding out what else she's good at.
Yes.
We missed it.
Yes, that's it. Right? Exactly.
We absolutely missed it. You know, she works now in a department store, setting up all of the shelving and the displays, and she's fantastic at it. And she uses almost nothing that we spent all those years beating into her head.
Right.
It was a talent she had all along. Right. So your kids, just take it easy on them. They're going as fast as they can, and they're struggling as hard as they can, and you both need a break. And I know how difficult that is, and you know, you say it takes a lot of patience. We're not known for that.
Right.
Right. So separate.
Yeah.
Give yourself breaks.
I think that I would echo that 100%. And I would add one more thing to that, especially if you have little kids. I always say, get on your knees and look at them in the eye and just talk to them. and let them,
Absolutely.
and bring them in and let them feel. And I always say, take a break, but do something fun with them for a little bit. Because you know what? They probably need that break too.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I mean, they're not getting, a lot of children right now aren't getting the breaks, you know, but it's easy for us as parents to lose our cool. And I had a therapist that told us one time to turn and count to 5 and just walk away and take a deep breath in and count to 5 and then come back. And like I said, if it helps you out there, you know, remember the saying, you know, to stop, take a moment and refocus, because, you know, on the board of CASA, I'm very familiar with child abuse, and you don't want it to go to that level. And
No,
not saying that it will, but you know, little things can become big things, and it's
absolutely.
better just to have that calmness, right?
Yeah.
I think it's so important.
And I don't know if this applies equally to adults, because, and I don't know if this happens around your office, but I know that when we were rushing for a deadline at the office, and everybody's working and they've come in early and maybe they stayed overnight and everybody's working, and you know, as it comes up and you can see that people are kind of ready to lose it. Well, that's the perfect time to have a snowball fight with balled up pieces of paper, and we just start throwing paper and or having races with the wheelie chairs in the corridor for 10 or 15 minutes, and then people can get back to work.
Exactly.
Right?
It's go to a different office, go to a different, you know, just go down the hallway, just get away from that person. I find myself, you know, when I'm not being able to communicate to my team or get something accomplished, you know, what I do is I just kind of stop that project and start another one, and then we go back to that, and it always works out. It always works out, because I think they need a break too. And I
Absolutely.
always try to see it through their vision, right? Because it's not all about us, right? It's
And
about others.
it is, and I was wondering, I didn't mention this before, but it's very interesting that you own 3 companies, because I have found that I need to have at least, probably not more, but at least 3 projects sort of running at the same time. Because when I get tired of one,
Yes,
I can
yes,
jump
that's
to
it.
the
That's
other
it.
and jump to the other. And so 3 companies would serve that purpose.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
It's yeah, it's very, and they're very different. They're and I'll share that with you. I'm the CEO of the of Refocus, the creative office. That's timetorefocus.com, and that's with a number 2. But the second one is a search firm that I started. Now, I would never recommend this, with $3,000 when I was very young. It's 30 years old, and we place senior executives in the pharmaceutical, biotech, and nutraceutical industry. So it's very high level, you know, very intense interviews that we have to do, right? And reporting structure. And our third business is a film production company where we created a documentary on helping people, and it's been selected at 2 film festivals. So
cool.
never a dull moment, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's all about how to get through the difficult times, you know, because I have such a passion for people right now, and I feel like anxiety is a big deal. And
Absolutely.
and you and I know this as well. When you have ADHD, it's usually accomplished or accompanied with another, not accomplished, but accompanied with another area, whether it be dyslexia or it may be anxiety or depression or whatever. For me, it was anxiety, and I just had to learn how to deal with that. And everyone's different. And if you're listening, I would recommend coaching, counseling, whatever you need to do to make it great. Make it
Absolutely.
great.
Absolutely. We, the latest statistics I think I've heard are as much as 76% of people with ADHD have a comorbid condition, which that's, I mean, you're dealing with a lot. Right. So yes, absolutely. And of course, ADDA, we recognize this sort of intersectionality of people. We have many support groups because people have unique situations. We've got, you know, support group for ADHD and high IQ, ADHD and a parent, ADHD and LGBTQ, ADHD, right? And a lot of people go to multiple of these groups because nobody's life is just ADHD and one other thing, where, You know,
Right.
we have many other things. They're ADHD and African American, just
Right.
all kinds of stuff that they're
We're all
dealing with.
people. We're all
We're
people.
all people,
Yeah.
and so you go there and you learn, get supported by your peers. But of course, we also highly recommend that you get professional help. And we support coaches especially, but therapists, and training is important too. You have a lot of skills that you need to learn.
Right.
You know, around focus, you talk a lot about focus, and there's some sort of basic lifestyle changes that you're going to need to put in place to optimize your focus. All of these things, all of these strategies for refocusing are not going to help you if you stay up all night and don't get enough sleep. That's
Sleep is so important. We were talking about that on our last podcast when we were talking about brain health and nutrition. You can take the right supplements, medication, whatever, but if you don't have sleep, it will impact you. It might not be the next day, but it will be the next, in my life anyway. So I want to ask you a question about these groups. So you have these, you have different resources. So with this pandemic, are these people that are on video, or can they have phone conversations, or can they, how does that work?
Okay, so we actually do have, you can have phone conversations, but for the most part, and it's interesting, the pandemic didn't really affect us all that much because we've been completely virtual since 2015.
Oh, perfect, yeah.
Right, so the Zoom like this is how we do everything.
Right, right.
The board meets like this.
And how awesome is that? I mean, years ago, you and I didn't know. It was interesting. I had an employee that worked for me recently that was younger, and she said, "How did you work without the internet?" And I went, "Oh my gosh, I feel so old right now." But now this is the beauty of it, is that even counseling, you don't have to go into the office if you don't want to. No. It's private. And we just have technology that's so great in so many areas. It can be not good, but it's so great in these situations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so this is how we work, and we have support groups that meet like this. Everything is virtual. So you don't have to worry about if there's one in your area. Yeah. Because you connect online, and you're connecting with people just like you on the other side of the country, around the world, in different, we have support groups in different languages. So all of this is available through the one site, ADD.org.
And we will put that on our website as well. So ADD.org. Okay.
Right. And it's a membership, and membership is very inexpensive. It's like $5 a month for an individual. And we make it as inexpensive as possible to
I love that.
To help as many people as we can. And that's why it's all volunteers. I suppose we could charge more and have a staff and so on, but then we just leave a lot of people out in the cold that we don't want.
You and I were talking about that the other day, or earlier today, is that, you just start doing this, and yes, you could do things differently, but it's not about that. The mission is really getting the right help to the right people, and you'll worry about the other stuff later. I always have a theory with my businesses is if you have a talent and you go and you go and you go, the other stuff will work. But if the need is there to help others, then you should pursue that. And I think that is a big message of yours. So what does someone do? If someone's interested in being a member, do they have to have qualifications to do that?
No, absolutely not. So it's for adults with ADHD. The problem is 85% of adults with ADHD don't even know it. They're not diagnosed. So we invite you to come. Sign up for our newsletter. You'll start to learn if you see yourself in it. And we have a test online.
I saw that they have a test to see if you're ADHD. It's not the confirmed test, but it gives you a good idea, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I saw that and I went, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So because you may, a lot of people, there's so much stigma around a diagnosis of ADHD that you may just need the help. You may, your parents had ADHD, your kids have ADHD. You don't have a test, but hey, come.
I got tested though, yeah. yeah.
But come, join. You don't have to qualify to get in. What you have to be is an adult, and
Sure.
have ADHD and you're looking for a community, we're here.
I have a question.
Yep.
What about a spouse? If a spouse, because there's a lot of spouses that are married to individuals like me, like me that have ADHD.
Absolutely.
And I feel for them because there's a lot of stress that we don't realize that's happening. So can they be a part of this?
They can, and what we'll often do is they'll join as a family membership.
Okay.
Like in your case, you and your son and your husband.
Yeah.
So you have ADHD and your son has ADHD and your husband does not, right?
and he'd appreciate your support and prayers and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
So the two of you and your son would benefit from all of the ADHD stuff. Okay. But we have support groups, and a couple of would be of interest. There's an ADHD, or sort of it's a couples group for when ADHD is in the mix, but it doesn't affect everyone. Mm-hmm. And there's actually a support group for the non-ADHD partner.
That's so great.
They could all go there to complain about us, I say.
They will. That's why I haven't told him about it. But no, it's, I was thinking about that the other day, and we interviewed a coach, Melissa Orlov, on one of our podcasts, and she talks about that. And it can be very stressful for the other, partner. And I go back to your generous offer of doing the grocery shopping. I am so moved by that. I love that. And that shows just your willingness to help and acknowledge that, it might be difficult, but you want to help with that. So that's amazing. So your headquarters are in the US, right?
Yep.
And
they're in the US. That's where our website is hosted.
Okay.
We don't own a building.
Right.
So we don't have any actual location. I'm the president and I'm in Canada. Mm-hmm. My treasurer is in Portland, Oregon. The leader of all the support groups is in Los Angeles.
Perfect. It sounds that's our life. Yeah. And speaking of Canada, like I said, the best thing I ever did was hire myself a business coach, which was Robert Powell, who's in Canada. If somebody had said, you ought to hire this person in Canada, I don't know that I would have done that, but now everything is so easy. I always say we have an employee in all of our businesses. We've got them in Atlanta, Chicago, Missouri, Nevada, California, Pakistan, Serbia. We got them all over, and we love them because I always say we go for talent, not location.
Right, exactly.
The
COVID has actually, made everyone realize that we're not stuck with a physical location.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's caused a lot of other problems, but at least it's revealed that, which is fantastic.
And for us, it's interesting. I sent my son to college. I was a single mom, and he was my only child. So I went through the horrible trauma of letting him go. The tears came, and then the college sent him back. So, but anyway, he went again this year, and he goes, okay, we have a house with friends, so I'm not coming back, so he's enjoying that independence. But one thing I did want to note on here is that there is an episode early on, Drake Stevens is my son. We interviewed him, and he talks about what it's like having ADHD in college. If you have not listened to that, I would not you personally, but anyone listening, I would urge you to do that. He gives it was very heartbreaking for me as a mother to hear some of the things I didn't know that happened to him. Still does, and regrets, right? But what do you do? And but he's okay. He's doing great. So, but then he talks about social pressures in middle school and high school, and what happened to him. And the advice he gives is priceless. And one of them says that, hey, in high school, if you do something, you're branded, right? That's who you are. He goes, don't worry about it. In college, I meet somebody new every day.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's brilliant. So I love learning about your organization. But Duane, I want to know about you. How did you find ADDA, and what was your journey? Because I'm so fascinated with everyone's journey on how they get to where they're going.
So, this was many years ago. I was in my 30s, and I was struggling at work. And there's a big, long story leads up to that, but I was really struggling at work. I was on probation. I had been demoted, and we happened to see an ad, a classified ad back in the days when they actually had those, in the newspaper and they were looking for research subjects at a local university, and they wanted to do studies into adult ADHD and whether training would make any difference. And I'm like, I don't know if I have it, but I mean, my daughter has it. And as we went through the book, Hallowell's book, Driven to Distraction.
Amazing.
And
we
were just reading that and saying,
mm-hmm.
you know, I don't know if my daughter has it, but it explains my life just perfectly.
Right.
So I went and I signed up for that, and I got some training, and then I got a coach, and that made a huge difference for me. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, it made such a difference that my wife was so inspired that she left her job as a pharmaceutical rep to become a coach. So she's an ADHD coach.
And what is her name, in case anyone's looking for her? What's her name?
Linda Walker, Coach Linda Walker.
Coach Linda Walker. Okay.
She actually offers a lot of programs to help with focus and to help with planning and things like that. And I'm her guinea pig.
Yeah, I got some of those too in my family. Yeah, right? Got it.
So that's where it started. Anyway, and I eventually wound up in a local support group and so on. And a friend of mine was at this support group, and she had been to an ADDA conference before. And when we were at a meeting and they talked about this ADDA conference was coming up, and I'm like, I don't know, it's far away, it costs a lot. It was in Tucson, Arizona, and that's a long way from Montreal.
Right.
And so she turned to me and she said, Duane, you have to go to this conference. It'll change your life. And she was not wrong, because and I talked to my wife about it, and we decided to go together because she was a new coach and I was an adult with ADHD. And so we went together. Mm-hmm. At the time, I was so small as a person. I didn't think that I certainly wouldn't have gone by myself, right? But she came with me, and I walked into the conference, and there was like 600, 700 people there, and all of them talking all at once, and everybody involved in like 6 different conversations, all at the same, and it was home.
Yeah.
I could feel the weight just fall off my shoulders.
Yeah.
It's everywhere else in your life, you have to be on, and you are always worried about putting your foot in your mouth or saying something inappropriate or.
And we all do that from time to time. We're people, right?
Absolutely. And, but there it was okay. And I was so in love with the place that I volunteered that first conference. I said, I can't talk to people.
Wow, that's so awesome. Really? But just how that happened.
Yeah. And I began writing for the newsletter, and I started there and worked my way up, and, it's what, 15 years later, and I'm president now.
I love that. And, and that goes to show you what ADHD people do. We just jump right in and we give you 100%. And then we go, and then the next thing you know, we're president. We're like, wait a minute, how'd that happen? So, yeah.
Absolutely.
So tell it really quick, by the way, you've got a conference coming up too. When is that? And can you share with us a little bit about that?
So the conference this year is virtual. So this is
awesome.
Yeah. So this is the first time. So actually, if you're interested in the conference, that's the absolute best.
I'm going.
Time.
Yeah.
Right on. So this is the best year to go because it's going to be free, and it was supposed to be in Texas, but now it's going to be online. So, I don't know if next year I'm hoping that we'll be back in person, because it still doesn't replace the hugs of all the people that I've known for years and so on. Right. That's tough. But the conference is happening November I want to say 5th, 6th, and 7th, something like that, right around there. It's that first sort of weekend in November.
Awesome.
The Thursday night is the opening keynote, and then it goes on Friday and Saturday all day. There's a
I
couple of
can't
other
wait. I
keynotes in
mean,
there.
honestly, I think you're right. Being around like-minded people. For anyone who's watching this beforehand, Duane and I had a chance to talk, and it was like, oh, we've done this, and we've been through this, and we've been through this, so we kind of get each other. So it's awesome, and that's a perfect example, right? Of just
Absolutely,
getting to meet
absolutely.
people that are like-minded. You know. So
Yeah.
one thing I did want to ask you. You know, we all. You know, this podcast is about focusing, and you know, with ADHD people, sometimes failure is a big deal. Have you ever personally experienced failure? And if so, how did you pull yourself out?
So I've experienced failure many, many times. And you have to be careful, because you can fall into this, I call it the black hole, where you kind of just spiral down, ruminating, going over everything that you did and you did wrong, and how could I have done that better, and
we
you can
berate
get,
ourselves too internally.
oh,
And
absolutely, nobody
yeah,
would ever say the things to us that we say in our heads.
right.
It's
So
terrible.
awful. Yeah.
Right? And the only way that I have found to get out of that is you first of all, you have to break it off. There are a few things that you can do to do that. It has to be a shock to the system. I've found easier ways since, but taking a cold shower, somebody recommended hold an ice cube in your hand and just let it melt.
I've never heard that. I love that.
Yeah, it changes the focus of your mind.
Wow.
Instead of thinking here, you're, oh, that's cold. Oh, and you think about that, and then you have to focus on. You have to have something ready to focus on new.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
But you have to have a break of something, and it could be music. It could be a hobby. I use a hobby now. I didn't for many years, but I use painting. I love to paint. It gives me a chance to hyper focus. And if you don't have a creative hobby, even if you don't have time, I highly recommend carve out some time. It's you need to play in your strengths.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And a lot of us think that, oh, I don't deserve a hobby because I haven't got everything else done. Yeah, no, don't stop that. Take a break, do something that you love to do that plays to your strengths. And I'm not talking video games, I'm talking creative.
Yeah.
Right? And like tell a story, paint a picture, carve something, play with clay, whatever, but something creative, because if you can lose yourself in that and actually hyper focus on that, you will come out, it's like going on a retreat.
Right.
Or meditation or whatever, and you will come out of that 20 pounds lighter, I am sure, just from the cares and worries that
mentally, everything on your shoulders.
Absolutely.
You know, the best advice I ever got from my mother for years has been take a class. When I've been down in the dumps or hit a rut, she would say, pick out any class, take a class. And I took her advice when I was younger. I was older, and it was like a hip hop class. Don't do that, because that's embarrassing. But anyway, no. But no, it made me realize, like, okay, what do I lack? What don't I know? And go learn the piano, go do this. And for me, I was a theater major, and I act as well, but I kind of got myself back into an acting class, and you know what it did? It filled my soul. And so
absolutely,
it do that. So, well, I could talk to you forever on all of these topics. I have two major questions I want to end this with. First of all, who inspires you?
So, yeah, I was thinking about that, and I know a lot of sort of stars in the ADHD world, but the person who inspires me the most is my daughter. She has ADHD. She has learning disabilities.
Love that.
School was a struggle. And I remember she was in her last year of high school, and she had failed. And so she took it again, and she failed again. And I said, why don't you just give up? You don't need this. It's you're not proving anyone or anything to anyone. She said, yes, I am. I'm proving it to them that I can do it, and I'm proving it to myself, and I am going to do this. And it took her 3 times to pass that, but she did it. And she never gave up. And every time I take on something and I'm tired and I want to give up, I think, well, if my daughter can do that, like, who am I to quit, for crying out loud?
Right, exactly. I love that. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, okay. And my last question is this. We always ask everyone on the podcast this. For me, music is so inspiring. It can bring you up. It can bring you down. It can make you think, and it can bring you game on with that right energetic song. But when you are getting ready to speak or going to a conference or maybe to a pitch meeting for investors, or whatever it might be, and you've got to have game on, and you get in your car, what is the music that you listen to? Or it could be an artist, but or song, but what is the music that inspires you?
So I very much love rock music. Mm-hmm. I'm partial to sort of classic rock. It doesn't have to be really old, but sort of stuff that qualifies as classic rock. I love lyrics. I listen to the rock music with lyrics all the time. Even when I'm working, when I'm trying to concentrate, that's what I'm like. I've got Judas Priest running in the background. I've got and Kiss is one of my all-time favorite bands. This is not music that you would think that would lead you to concentrate, but I can concentrate with that. Yeah. And when I really want to be
I love
pumped,
that, actually,
pumped for something, I 3 Doors Down, Kryptonite.
Of course, yeah.
Right? Or the Arkells, Knocking on the Door. So there's lots of good music like that, but probably Kryptonite. You can't sit still and not sing along for that. But the same is true of Bohemian Rhapsody, and the same, or the Game with Queen, or anyway, just.
I love it. I know. Okay, so by the way, we've got a playlist coming of all of our guest recommendations, and our co-founder Drake Stevens putting that together. So that'll be on our website, which is refocusedwithangela.com. So if you are looking for an amazing group to be a part of, no matter where you live, check out ADDA.com and Duane Gordon.
ADD.org.
Okay, ADD.org. I so apologize.
No problem. I'll tell you what, though. Mm-hmm. How about this? Go to ADD.org/gift, GIFT. You can get a 2-month free trial membership.
I love that. Okay, so we're going to repeat that. So ADD.org/gift. Is that right? All right, awesome. I'm excited. Well, like I said, I told Duane by the end of the day, I will be a new member personally. I will be going to their conference, and I'm so impressed with your group. I'm impressed with you. And, our goal is to really change the stigma of people with ADHD, and you're a part of that. So I graciously thank you for being on our podcast.
Well, thank you so much, Angela. It was a pleasure.